Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel. Going to talk Texas OU visitors, a little Red River Shootout recruiting list. We'll get to that here in just a second. Got a couple of sponsors to thank for this edition of On Texas Football. First up, our friends at Von Lane. From Texas Football Saturdays to NFL Sundays, from ACL Fest to F1, this fall is stacked, and Von Lane is the smart way to get there. Forget TSA lines or fighting that I-35 traffic. With Von Lane, you board in minutes at a luxury hotel terminal. Then it's 22 big first-class seats, each with Wi-Fi, outlets, and an onboard attendant bringing snacks, drinks, and yes, even beer and cocktails. You'll arrive relaxed and ready for kickoff, the concert, or family time. And now, with booking open through December, you can lock in your Thanksgiving and Christmas travel right now. Go to vonlane.com, use the code OTF25, that's OTF25, and save $20 on your first ride. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. CJ, we talked earlier in the week when you, Jerry, and I chopped it up on the recruiting breakdown about the visitor list as it was coming together. As we approach kickoff, grade this visitor list. Good, okay. What's the visitor list look like in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's okay. This is a tough game, obviously, right? You get to balance both the environment, the stadium, the pomp, the pageantry, to quote Sarkisian, but you don't get, as a staff, to meet with the recruits and their families, right? So inviting them is more just an introduction to this rivalry, to this atmosphere. Should you play for Texas or Oklahoma, this is what it's like. But ultimately, those relationships, those conversations, those very valuable meetings of in-person time, not necessarily of the utmost importance, nor is it really available to the coaching staff this weekend. But altogether, I think it's solid. You get a lot of commits in the 26 class making the trip to Dallas, or just the short drive from the DFW area to the Cotton Bowl and the State Fair for this weekend. And again, that's a glimpse of what they will be a part of, which I believe is very important.
CJ, let's get to the class of 2026. Again, Texas is still recruiting guys committed to other schools. So you've got other schools coming after guys committed to Texas. Among the visitors expected to be at the game on Saturday, Dia Bell, Derek Cooper, Cohen Brown, Max Wright, John Turntine, a couple of local guys there. Smoke Matthews has said he plans on being in Dallas. CJ, is there anybody in this 26 class that you're worried about at this point?
Worried about, obviously, in the day of NIL, you never fully feel like any commitment is completely firm. I will say, however, I do think Dia Bell is a guy that is certainly firm, and getting him back on at a Texas game with a lot of these guys in the class, I think that's fantastic. Look, obviously, you're going to be worried about some of the out-of-state guys. James Johnson. You're going to be worried about, perhaps Corey Wells and the push from Auburn. But right now, Texas having them in the fold is very much a positive. And again, when you have guys already committed from elsewhere in the class as well, including a Derek Cooper, a Smoke Matthews, as you mentioned, Dia Bell, all from out of state over on that East Coast, I think that's fantastic because, again, it reassures why they believe Texas is the choice for them. And that trickles down into other guys in that area, as well as guys in that class also coming from outside of the state of Texas.
CJ, I want to look at offensive linemen in the class of 2027. Now, we talked about, mentioned Max Wright and John Turntine will both be there, a couple of 2026 commits. But that 2027 offensive line class, CJ, how does it shape it out for Texas thus far? Because I think that's a position that, based on what we've seen through the first 5 games, I think fan attention is going to gravitate toward what gets done in the 26 class and beyond.
Yeah, well, before we get to 27, I watched that game in the Swamp last week, Jeff, and I thought the biggest winner of all of this might just be Malachi Lee. So we'll see if anything, moves the needle in that regard later on in this cycle. But to your point, 27 offensive line, it's a very loaded class inside the state of Texas. Of course, you got the big names, your Swansons up at South Oak Cliff, Ishmael Kamara at Gilmer. Those are probably the 2 top guys in the state. But folks need to be aware of Peyton Miller out of Anna. Texas is recruiting him as the lone center in the 2027 class. You look at him, he looks, very similar to what a Jake Majors looked like coming out of Prosper back in the day, but I think he moves with more lateral quickness and a little bit more punch at the point of attack, which again bodes well for what his long-term future could be at the center position. On top of that, Caden Scott's another guy down in San Antonio. If we both got to see him in person in the spring, physically, that's what it looks like. Now, there's still some hip stiffness. There's still some bend at the hip that, of course, you'd like to kind of tweak out as he continues to develop as a football player. But altogether, I think it's a very strong class of offensive linemen, and one that Texas is going to have to be very busy with.
Yeah, CJ, I love one of your responses in that visitor thread we got over at ontexasfootball.com. Actually, it was Jerry's response. I beg your pardon. Said, I heard there's a really good O-line in Anna, too. Any word on him making the 50-minute drive? CJ, this may be the best post Jerry has in the third. It says, Peyton Miller, ... stud, likely. I think it's important that Texas, if there are guys that can help them on the offensive line in the state of Texas, in my opinion, I think it's imperative that you get those guys and do whatever it takes to get those guys. CJ, I don't know where you're at on homegrown guys, national guys. I know you just want to see Texas get guys on the offensive line that can move people and make a difference, but you've got a stud like that in your backyard. You'd like to see Kyle Flood and Sark finish the race there.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I thought Texas, early on in the spring in those winter coaching sessions, they do a great job of checking in, right? Going to campuses, watching a practice, watching a workout. They do a great job there. And then you kind of see the momentum shift a little bit in their perspective of where they want to go. And we've seen them recruit nationally, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, right? That SEC territory has been somewhere that Texas has really began to plant their flag. And, that's great. But altogether, Jeff, it might be easier, to get a kid right down the road. Now, does that matter? I think we're all in agreement. You find the best players. In today's day and age, it no longer really matters because when you have NIL funds, you're able to bring your parents across the country. You're able to go home a little bit easier than you would have been able to back in the day. So right now, the focus for me is find the best developmental pieces, find the best immediate playing time guys as well. Just find the best players, and it doesn't matter where they come from.
Peyton Miller might just be one of the best players in the country, one of the best O-line prospects in the country for 2027. Again, Jerry Hamilton was at Anna earlier this week. 6'5", 305 is Peyton Miller. Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Penn State, SMU, Clemson, Arizona State, and Iowa coming after the Hearts. If Kirk Ferentz is recruiting an offensive lineman, sign me up. SEC offers from Texas, OU, A&M, Tennessee, Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Missouri. 10.5-inch hands, 81-inch wingspan for those of you interested in such measurables on Peyton Miller. All right, we'll get back to it here in just a second, but got to thank our second sponsor here on this edition of On Texas Football, and that is our friends over at IP Vanish. Nothing kills game day like a blackout or a blocked live stream. IP Vanish VPN keeps your connection private so you can bypass restrictions and watch securely, even on public Wi-Fi. And there's more. With IP Vanish Advanced, you also get a secure browser that blocks trackers, malware, viruses, plus 1 terabyte of cloud storage to back up your files. So that means your streaming stays private, your browsing is protected, and your files are always safe. Right now, On Texas Football listeners can save 83%, just a little over $2 a month for all-in-one protection. Go to ipvanish.com/on Texas Football. That's ipvanish.com/on Texas Football, or follow the link in the description of this episode. CJ, I want to stay on the 27 class as we wrap this up. The recruitment of Kavian Bryant, he's got an announcement around the corner. Jaquan Snell, we talked about this week. Who's top of mind for you in the outside of the offensive lineman that we talked about? Who's top of mind for you on this visitor list in the 27 or the 28 class?
Yeah, hard not to look at the quarterback position and say that's where the biggest recruit is this weekend, right? Of course, Kavian Bryant, that right now is where Texas is looking. Of course, Texas Tech is right there in the hunt too. And we obviously know how aggressive Texas Tech has been and will continue to be in the current stage of college football. So right now, that's where the decision will come. So it's, again, great for these young guys to get a glimpse of what they could participate in for 3, 4, potentially even 5 years if they were to commit and sign with the Texas Longhorns. But this is key because, as you mentioned, a decision right around the corner, November 1st for Kavian Bryant. Right now, it's Texas and Texas Tech. It always helps when he's on your sidelines or in your stands watching you play football. Now, if you're Texas, you got to put together a strong product on the field. The other name I wanted to mention, Jaquan Snell. My goodness, the way that he has come out and played the first half of his season in 2025, Jeff, He's probably right back in that conversation for the top overall safety in the state of Texas. He is a Jelani McDonald starter kit. He's got the wingspan. He's got the physicality. He's got instincts too. You can throw him at big nickel. You could throw him at safety. You can throw him at center field, whatever you want to say. This is a stud, and him getting back onto campus is a great sign for Texas because, hey, Oklahoma's looming, Texas A&M is looming, and now Ohio State in that conversation as well.
CJ, only other visitor I want to mention, Kingston Rogers, 2028 D-line prospect out of Royce City. And I only mentioned him because on that Royce City staff, a couple former Longhorns, Peter Jenkins is on that staff, Desmond Jackson's on that staff. And since it's Texas OU weekend, it's worth mentioning those guys were both on the field making plays in that 2015 upset that Texas pulled. Seemed improbable going into the game, but hopefully bringing up those two guys, channeling some 2015 CJ. I don't know. I'm just looking for some good vibes going into Saturday.
Yeah, hey, I like it. Kingston Rogers, of course, 3 offers right now. He's 6'3", 245 pounds, more of an edge prospect at the moment. We'll see how big he gets. Of course, very young, only a sophomore. Lamar, Texas State, and UTSA right now are those 3 offers, excuse me. Another name to know, Jalen Thompson out of Lovejoy, a 2028 offensive lineman, 6'5", 340 pounds, big kid, Jeff. And, of course, Texas, plenty of success out of Lovejoy recently.
No doubt. CJ, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing this edition of On Texas Football. Also, thank you to Von Lane and IP Vanish for sponsoring it. If you want to get that visitor list, get over to ontexasfootball.com. We'll be updating it throughout the day on Saturday leading up to kickoff and after kickoff as we find out who actually made it to the game. If you're not a member, over to ontexasfootball.com. Get over to the site right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG. That's OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's our team coverage, recruiting, anything we're dishing at On Texas Football, as long as you're locked in here on the channel and on the site, you're not missing anything. For CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, welcome.